Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Let's get started. Our top focus tonight on Gravitas. Thousands taking to the streets in Europe with anger mounting over Israel's interception of a Gaza-bound humanitarian aid flotilla. We're getting you the updates on the ground situation and the bigger picture. That's coming up shortly. Also on the show for you tonight, Russian President Vladimir Putin's hard-hitting messages praising Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi for resisting external pressure. We're getting you the complete story. Pakistan reverses the ban on donkey hide exports. What's behind the move and what's the bigger picture? We're telling you more on this. All this and more coming up. The Israeli Prime Minister has set Europe ablaze from Barcelona to Rome. Thousands taking to the streets angry over Israel's interception of a Gaza-bound humanitarian aid flotilla. Traffic was blocked, shops and restaurants vandalized as pro-Palestinian protesters raised their voices demanding justice for the Palestinians in Gaza. And the anger is taking shape in different parts of Europe after the armed Israeli forces boarded around 40 civilian vessels attempting to deliver aid to Gaza, detaining more than 400 foreign activists, including the Swedish climate campaigner Greta Thunberg. According to reports, the final vessel of the Global Flotilla was intercepted at 10:29 a.m. local time, just 42.5 nautical miles from Gaza. Over 38 relentless hours, the Israeli naval forces seized all 42 humanitarian vessels, each carrying aid, volunteers, and the unwavering resolve to break the blockade. A video circulating online showing Israeli National Security Minister addressing the detained participants of the flotilla, which includes journalists held in Israeli facilities in the Nakab region. In the footage, he seems to refer to the detainees as terrorist prisoners, citing their attempt to deliver humanitarian aid, including baby formula, to Gaza. The interception of the flotilla in international waters and those remarks sparking global outrage over the treatment of humanitarian activists and more so about Israel's conduct in the war. In Barcelona, protesters smashed windows, spray-painted anti-Israel slogans on stores and restaurants. They accused some businesses of complicity in Israel's blockade. In Paris, about 30 people came together to protest in front of the Israeli embassy in Paris in support of the flotilla.
I came to demonstrate in front of the Israeli embassy to show our support for the people of Gaza and to demonstrate that the French people denounce the genocide currently being committed in Gaza by the Israeli army.
In Italy, students occupied universities in Milan, Rome, blocking traffic in Turin, holding flash mobs in solidarity with Gaza's health workers.
I believe that states must recognize the state of Palestine, as well as all those territories that today suffer violence, aggression, and wars. And I believe we have a duty to make everyone recognize the chance for a way of life that allows people to look towards the future.
Italian unions have also called for a general strike with more than 100 rallies across the country. The Italian defense minister has criticized these protests as disruptive tactics, questioning whether blocking roads and destroying property could truly help the Palestinians. But the anger is palpable across Europe. Parts including Paris, Berlin, Geneva have witnessed rallies condemning Israel's actions in Gaza.
My daughter, Nisha Dolan, author and journalist, is on the follow-up flotilla, the Thousand Madeleines. They're about 6 days away from where Global Sumud were today. And so I'm here in solidarity, number one, with Palestine, because they're being subjected to genocide every day of their lives. And number two, with the flotilla and my daughter.
In Greece, protesters clashed with the riot police outside the Israeli embassy, chanting for Palestinian freedom. While Tunisian crowds gathered near the US embassy calling for the release of the detained flotilla members. And it's not just Europe. The pro-Palestinian protest has become loud globally. Demonstrations have also spread to different parts, including Mexico City, Dhaka, Istanbul, where protesters carried banners reading, "End the blockade, freedom for the flotilla."
Mücadele bilincini bileyen bir şey.
Turkey, Jordan, Egypt, many states in the Middle East, I don't know, the states here and there in the West are indifferent to war in Gaza. People are constantly accelerating and escalating this process. We are, in fact, part of that flotilla. That's how the people here see themselves clearly and openly.
İşbirlikçi rejimleri boğacak.
And back in Gaza, displaced residents were hoping for supplies from the flotilla and are now devastated and in despair.
As soon as we heard that the Freedom Flotilla had set sail, I rushed here, and since then I have been waiting for them every day on the beach. Most of the people here are like me, waiting to welcome them. Unfortunately, we learned that some of the ships were intercepted by the Israeli Navy, their communications and internet cut off, totally isolated.
These ships that Israel prevented were meant to reveal the truth to the world. We wanted them to come here to play their role in exposing our suffering and the lack of food and water. We want them to reach Gaza, bring aid to the people, and break the siege.
We hope that the Freedom Flotilla will reach us, but I think the Israelis won't allow them, and I don't expect they can make it here. They don't want the world to see the people's condition here and the miserable reality we are living in. It's completely different from what people in the West and foreign countries have heard. It's far worse than anything they were told.
Residents in Gaza are seeing their hope of receiving aid fading. The flotilla comprises of around 50 vessels with over 500 volunteers from more than 40 countries and was trying to challenge Israel's naval blockade and deliver food and medical aid. The Israeli Foreign Ministry confirmed that the ships were detained safely and passengers transferred to Israeli ports. But the interception has sparked an unprecedented wave of protests worldwide. Since the war broke out in Gaza in 2023, the Israeli offensive has killed more than 66,000 Palestinians. Israel, of course, began that offensive after Hamas attacked Israel on October 7, 2023, in which some 1,200 people were killed and 251 taken as hostages back to Gaza. And despite a peace plan that has been pushed by US President Donald Trump, the Israeli offensive in Gaza continues. Israel has told the entire million-strong population of Gaza City to head south as it mounts one of the biggest offensives of the war this month, vowing to root out Hamas in what it says are their last bastions in Gaza's biggest urban area. Meanwhile, only 14 of Gaza's 36 hospitals remained partly functional. There is a vast shortage of medical supplies. Israel saying there is no quantitative limit on aid entering Gaza and accuses Hamas, which it has been at war with for nearly 2 years now, of stealing aid. Accusations that the Palestinian group denies. The world is watching these developments. At this point, it's a combination of grief, anger, and for the displaced, the injured, and those waiting for aid. It's a long wait. Shifting focus for now, the Indian Army Chief has issued a direct warning to Pakistan that India is ready to unleash a second, deadlier version of Operation Sindoor, warning Pakistan to stop sponsoring cross-border terror or risk being wiped off the map. Speaking at an army post in Rajasthan, he said that India will not show the restraint shown in the earlier operations. Listen to this.
India is fully prepared this time. We will not show the restraint we exhibited during Operation Sindoor 1.0. This time, the action will be such that perhaps Pakistan will have to think whether it wants to exist geographically. If Pakistan wants to continue with its position in geography, it should stop its state-sponsored terrorism.
And that hard-hitting warning coming right after India's Air Force chief publicly exposed Pakistan's lies. He has given a comprehensive account of Pakistan's heavy losses during Operation Sindoor with a blunt, detailed narrative that tears apart Islamabad's baseless claims. Speaking ahead of the Indian Air Force's 93rd anniversary, he said the operation had a single focused objective: make Pakistan pay a heavy price for its actions.
It stands as a lesson which will go down in history that this is one war that was started with a very clear objective, and it was terminated in a quick time without just prolonging it. We could make them reach a stage where they ask for a ceasefire, ask for termination of hostilities.
And the Indian Air Force chief further revealed that India destroyed nearly a dozen Pakistani fighter jets. Along with key radar sites and command centers, he detailed how advanced enemy jets were shot down in air-to-air combat, while at least 4 F-16s were destroyed on the ground inside hangars during maintenance. A long-range aircraft was taken out from over 300 kilometers away. And even a C-130 class transport aircraft was struck during the operation. The strikes, the Air Force chief has said, went beyond aircraft and included radar installations, command and control centers, runways, hangars, even a surface-to-air missile system. He credited long-range precision weapons and a robust air defense for the success, with satellite images corroborating all the strikes that he mentioned. And the comments directly challenging Pakistan's narrative, including claims made at the United Nations that India lost 7 jets, dismissing those counterclaims as quote-unquote fascinating tales. He said Pakistan can keep their make-believe versions if they want to. In short, India's top military commanders have not just given a detailed disclosure of battlefield success, they have also issued a warning of caution to Pakistan. Some news from Pakistan, where a groundbreaking move has sparked both intrigue and concern. The Pakistan government has lifted the ban on the export of donkey hides. For nearly a decade, donkey hides were banned for export in Pakistan due to widespread fears over fraudulent meat sales and animal welfare. But now the decision to overturn it is raising eyebrows. The Ministry of Commerce has cleared the path for the export of donkey hides with strict controls. Exports will be allowed only through designated firms operating in approved slaughterhouses. And this puts the spotlight back to the port city of Gwadar that started a slaughterhouse earlier this year. The facility processes donkey meat, bones and hides. It is designed to cater to the ever-increasing demand for these products in China. The key driver, an ancient Chinese remedy made from the collagen in donkey hides. It has become a highly sought-after commodity in China's booming health and wellness market, in fact. It is considered to offer a range of health benefits, including improved blood circulation and immune support, making it a staple in both food and traditional medicine. But why Pakistan is the immediate question. Why are Chinese buyers looking there to meet that growing demand for donkey-derived products? Well, the answer lies in the lucrative industry there, which is now spanning global borders as a result of the historical roots in Shandong province. China has long been the heart of the production of the same, with nearly 90% of the world's supply originating there. Yet, as the demand escalates, looking at the broader picture, it's clear why the global demand for donkeys is such a concern. China is increasingly turning to Pakistan and Afghanistan, the two key countries that provide a reliable supply of donkey hides. And as donkey populations dwindle, the global demand for donkey hides, especially for this product, has only worsened the situation. A recent UN report revealing that over 6 million donkeys are slaughtered worldwide to meet the demands every year. And as Pakistan's donkey export market opens up and the Gwadar slaughterhouse continues its operations, the question is who will protect the donkeys, and more importantly, what will happen to the communities that depend on them? The Russian president laid down a series of hard-hitting messages, also praising the Indian Prime Minister for resisting external pressure. while ridiculing US President Donald Trump and the NATO alliance. Speaking at a forum in Sochi, the Russian leader dismissed Washington's attempts to pressure India and China away from Russian oil and gas. In fact, he warned that US pressure on Moscow's trade partners would only boomerang, driving up global energy costs, keeping American interest rates high, and slowing the US economy. When asked about India's stance, Putin doubled down on his confidence in New Delhi. He said India would never bow to external pressure and allow itself to be humiliated, adding that he knows Prime Minister Modi personally and is certain that New Delhi will not make such a move.
The Indian people will look at what decisions are made by the political leadership and never accept any humiliation before anyone. And also I know Prime Minister Modi, he will never take any steps of the kind.
And Putin also responded to comments from Donald Trump, who recently described Russia as a quote-unquote paper tiger, suggesting that it might have been ironic and used the moment to underscore the NATO's failure, so-called failure, to contain Moscow's military push in Ukraine.
We take it calmly. I don't know in what context it was said and how. Maybe it was said with irony. Maybe he told his interlocutor, "This is a paper tiger." But what can it mean? Go and deal with this paper tiger. But if we are fighting with the entire NATO bloc, advance at this rate and feel so confident, but given all this are a paper tiger, then what is NATO in this case?
And what also stands out is the contrast in how Putin and Trump interact with world leaders, especially their allies. Putin, at the SEO summit last month, greeted Prime Minister Modi and the Chinese president with warmth, handshakes, smiles, laughter. In comparison, this is how Donald Trump's meeting with the Ukrainian president unfolded. Besides the heated discussion that became public, the body language from Trump appeared dismissive and transactional as per experts, and the difference is telling. Putin projecting himself as a statesman who respects allies and defends their independence, even while fighting a war. Trump, on the other hand, appearing to treat relationships with foreign leaders as bargaining chips, as many have alleged, supportive only if they serve his personal or political goals, like endorsing him for the Nobel Peace Prize. Before we go on any further, here's a quick look at what else is lined up for you on the show tonight. A special story on cryptocurrency. Is crypto the new digital gold? We are telling you why this question is being asked. We are decoding the US-China Cold War over the world's subsea cables. You don't want to miss this. All this and more coming up. Germany's Munich airport has reopened after a night of drone sightings forced its closure. The incident is part of a broader pattern of similar occurrences across Europe, prompting EU leaders to strengthen anti-drone defenses. This as Moscow denied any involvement for the drone incidents in Europe. Earlier, the Munich airport grounded at least 17 flights, diverted 15 others to nearby cities. The disruption affected nearly 3,000 passengers. They were provided camp beds, blankets, drinks and snacks by the airport while stranded overnight. Lufthansa confirmed that 19 of its flights were either cancelled or rerouted. According to the German police, because it was dark, no information on the type, size or origins of the drones could be confirmed. After a temporary shutdown, Munich airport then resumed operations with the passengers beginning to check in for the flights. According to reports, there were only a few cancellations visible on the departure board. Flight radar footage showing planes diverting away from the airport's airspace before operations resumed. Notably, a flight from Bangkok was the first to land after the shutdown, touching down at approximately 5:25 a.m. local time. The incident coming amid a series of drone sightings the past 1 month across Europe, prompting a leaders' summit in Copenhagen. In Poland, at least 21 drones were detected on September 10, prompting a response from the NATO forces. In Romania, drones were detected on September 13, which were tracked by 2 F-16 jets. On September 19, Russian MiG-31 aircraft spent 12 minutes in Estonia's airspace, prompting a response from NATO aircraft. Norway detected multiple drones on September 22nd. The country also reported drone sightings near the base on September 27. And on September 25, Latvia was on high alert after 5 Russian aircraft flew close to its airspace. Germany reported similar drone sightings on the 26th of September, with the latest incident reported at Munich airport on October 2nd. In Denmark, on September 22nd, Copenhagen's airport was closed for hours. On the 25th, drones spotted near 5 other places across Denmark. And on the 26th, the airspace over Aalborg airport was closed. On the same day, drones were spotted on the Karup air base. On September 26, drones spotted by the naval base in Sweden, while operations had to be shut twice at the airport in Lithuania. Addressing a summit in the Black Sea resort city of Sochi, the Russian president laughed off suggestions that he ordered drones to Denmark. He said he won't do it again. He won't do it anymore. Listen to this.
I won't do it anymore. I will not send any more drones either to France, Denmark, Copenhagen, or Lisbon. But seriously, we don't even have drones that can reach Lisbon. We have some, and they have long range, but there are no targets, which is the main thing. But this is also one of the ways to escalate the situation in general, to fulfill the Washington boss's orders and increase defense spending.
And earlier, the Danish Prime Minister warned of a hybrid war in Europe, highlighting the issue of cyber attacks, sabotage, and drone attacks.
Because there is not only hybrid attacks, there is a hybrid war going on in Europe right now. It is part of rearming ourselves, because when I say rearming Europe, it means also make a more robust European society.
Russia is meanwhile flexing its naval firepower in the Baltic Sea. New footage showing the Russian corvette Storm conducting air defense drills, launching missiles to repel simulated attacks. Here's a look at this show of military might. Massive protests have rocked Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, and now from POK, the anger has spilled onto the streets of Karachi after a spate of violence in POK claimed at least 12 lives. In fact, the entire region of POK has had its internet shut down for the past 96 hours. The protest led by the Awami Action Committee called upon immediate attention to the ongoing crisis in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, which has witnessed unabated violence in the past 4 days. Supporting the locals, protesters demanded that the government abolish 12 reserved assembly seats in POK. They claim these seats reserved for representatives from other parts of Pakistan have been used to install or topple regional governments. They also demanded an end to the perks and privileges for politicians and bureaucrats.
Our legitimate and genuine demands should be met immediately. This is our appeal, and that is why Kashmiri community has gathered here. They all have one voice, that they want a system that is based on justice. We want end of perks and privileges enjoyed by the elite. We are out for our basic rights.
The outrage is only intensifying. Thousands of protesters have been holding their ground since this morning at the entry point on the Pakistan-POK border, demanding action against the Pakistan government. People from other parts of POK are also continuing to arrive in Muzaffarabad. After Friday prayers, a second round of talks took place between Shehbaz Sharif's advisors and the members of the Awami Action Committee to discuss the demands being made by the protesting groups. This after the first round of the talks on Thursday remained inconclusive. India has reacted to those developments, calling on the international community to hold Pakistan accountable. India's Ministry of External Affairs has slammed Pakistan's oppressive approach and human rights violations in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir.
We have seen reports on protests in several areas of Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, including brutalities by Pakistani forces on innocent civilians. We believe that it is a natural consequence of Pakistan's oppressive approach and systemic plundering of resources from these territories.
Violent clashes between protesters and policemen in POK resulted in the deaths of 9 civilians and 3 policemen. As the widespread unrest continues, authorities have cut off phone and internet services to the region. The officials have said clashes between the demonstrators and the police have not abated since the protest started on Monday in Muzaffarabad. The rivalry between China and the United States for superpower status is no secret. But did you know that now it could directly affect your daily life? The two countries are racing to control the world's undersea internet cables, the hidden infrastructure that carries almost all global data. We are talking about your online banking, streaming movies, AI services, international communications, so on and so forth. Any disruption to these cables could have far-reaching consequences for people and businesses everywhere. And today, these very undersea networks have become the new flashpoint in the growing Cold War between America and China. In February this year, off Taiwan's southwest coast, a cargo ship entered a restricted zone and dropped anchor. For more than 2 days, its chain scraped the seabed, cutting communications between the mainland and a nearby archipelago. And eventually the ship's Chinese captain was imprisoned, but the incident is not an isolated one. Taiwan claims that it suffers 7 to 8 cable breaks per year, which it says is mostly linked to China. Of course, China says they are accidents. Still, it shows just how vulnerable undersea cables really are, a system that we all take for granted. And as the tensions rise between the US and China, protecting and controlling these cables has never been more urgent and necessary. Taipei has stepped up patrolling, imposed tough penalties for sabotage, but military veterans are saying the governments are not catching up to the problem yet. These undersea fiber networks are so vast that some say that put back to back, it could stretch to the moon and back twice. And the US and China are racing to not only protect these cables, but also to control them. According to reports, Washington is shutting China out of its networks, while Beijing is expanding its own digital Silk Road. On one side, you have PEACE, or Peace, built by China's HM technology, which became fully operational in the year 2024. On the other hand, you have the one being built by the US-based Subcom and is set to be running in early 2026. Both cables making their way to Europe, but the paths that these cables take are not random. The key here is to look at the divergences in their pathways, basically, and they will tell you how connectivity aligns with the strategic ambitions of their key backers. While China-backed cable bypasses regional rival India and makes stops in Africa, the US-backed one connects India and some Gulf economies. Undersea cables carry 99% of international internet traffic. Everything from AI queries to military coordination to $10 trillion in daily financial transactions. Earlier this year itself, the peace cable was mysteriously severed near the Gulf of Suez, disrupting traffic between Asia, East Africa, and Europe, until it was finally repaired 3 weeks later. And earlier this year, the peace cable was mysteriously severed. In fact, this had implications, like we said. What's more, only 4 companies manufacture nearly all subsea cables, including China's HMN, the US Subcom, Japan's NEC, France's Alcatel. But the landscape is rapidly changing. Tech giants like Meta, Google, Microsoft, Amazon now controlling more than 70% of subsea cable capacity, up from less than 10% a decade ago. Meta is now also building the world's longest submarine cable, called Project Waterworth, spanning 50,000 kilometers. The objective is clear: secure bandwidth, reduce costs, and also ensure connectivity in the age of AI. And as you can see, cables are important for intercontinental communication, and so the stakes are as high as they could be. But cables are also fragile, particularly near the landing points and the shallow waters. In incidents like the one we mentioned earlier, the vessel scraping, collecting evidence, enforcing the law is difficult, especially in cases of the so-called grey zone operations, which are basically coercive moves that stop short of war in a way, but target weak points like undersea cables. In such a case, it can be disguised as fishing accidents. We've already seen incidents like the one in Europe and the Red Sea. In December 2024, a ship departing from the Russian port of Ustluga dragged its anchor 90 kilometers across the Gulf of Finland, severing 5 data and power cables and inflicting at least $70 million worth of damage. And so Europe and NATO have poured money into AI-enabled monitoring drones, submersible repair robots, and hybrid defenses in order to protect them. China, meanwhile, has invested heavily in undersea sensors, what it calls an underwater Great Wall. China has also reportedly encouraged some countries to choose its cable network with financial support or cheap bids. The US has countered with its own financial incentives, along with diplomatic pressure to dissuade strategically located countries such as Vietnam from depending on Chinese infrastructure. It is expected that by 2040, the global undersea cable network will grow by nearly 50%, with new corridors connecting emerging markets. It's clear governments are not prepared for just how vulnerable to sabotage these undersea cables are. The modern economy, global communication, even the AI race depend on these hidden, fragile infrastructure beneath our oceans. New structures at a PLA army base in Inner Mongolia now mimic Taiwan's top government buildings, signaling more organized drills, it seems, for a potential cross-strait conflict. Satellite images obtained by a Japanese think tank showing the PLA has completed a replica of Taiwan's Judicial Yuan training base located around 400 kilometers northwest from capital Beijing. Judicial Yuan is the judicial branch of Taiwan, basically, overseeing all the courts there. The PLA mock facility connecting to a 900-foot underground tunnel located next to a building resembling Taiwan's presidential office. In recent years, Beijing has added models of Taiwan's foreign and defense ministry offices. Analysts saying the area around the mock presidential office has nearly tripled in size since 2020. Satellite photos from July 2022 revealing roadblocks around the replica offices as armored vehicles entered, while images taken just last month showing brigade-sized units training to confront a simulated enemy guarding the presidential palace. And a researcher from the think tank described the renovations at the PLA base as rapid and combat-focused, designed to give the PLA troops realistic conditions for urban and high-stakes operations. And Taiwan's defense chief acknowledged the developments, telling local media that Taipei is monitoring the situation closely and preparing for such a possible strike without providing operational details as such. The army base in Inner Mongolia has reportedly long served as a primary PLA training ground. In 2015, the Chinese state broadcaster aired live fire drills at the base, showing soldiers attacking a structure resembling Taiwan's 5-story presidential office. Military analysts say the PLA is now stepping up exercises simulating amphibious assaults on Taiwan, with recent documentaries also highlighting increasingly sophisticated tactics. All of these developments underlining a strategy by Beijing, rehearsing potential strikes on Taiwan, while signaling its growing readiness for confrontation across the Taiwan Strait. Bitcoin is back in the spotlight, climbing past $120,000 in recent days with political uncertainty in the United States and traditional markets wobbling. Investors are asking, is crypto the new digital gold? Can Bitcoin truly act as a safe haven like gold? And why is it surging now? And what does all of this mean for everyday investors? Let's just take a closer look now at the factors driving that surge and see whether Bitcoin can actually live up to that hype. Today, the world's largest cryptocurrency surged past $120,000, marking its highest level since hitting a record 7 weeks ago. And this comes amid the ongoing uncertainty in the United States, including fears of a government shutdown, prompting the investors to look for so-called safe haven assets. You might have heard Bitcoin being called digital gold. Just like gold, it's seen as a store of value, something that people turn to when traditional markets seem uncertain. And so while gold recently slipped from a record high, Bitcoin has been climbing steadily, which has captured the attention of investors, of course. And now, according to experts, the surge is not just a random spike. Bitcoin has seen massive inflows from exchange-traded funds or ETFs. And what this essentially means is that there is more money from the investors that is now flowing into Bitcoin. And some say this could be Bitcoin catching up to gold's recent gains. The digital currency has been rising for 6 days in a row now, up about 10% since last Friday. Just for perspective here, it crossed $120,000 back in August. Other cryptocurrencies, often more volatile than Bitcoin, also saw gains. Even companies tied to crypto benefited. Coinbase, a major crypto exchange, rose nearly 8%. Why now is the immediate question. Analysts are saying Bitcoin's market has been coiled for some time now, waiting for a breakout. The expert from Falcon X explaining that for months now there's been pressure from sellers, but no decisive price drop. When the market finally absorbs this selling pressure, it can trigger rapid gains. Another factor is the time of year. Historically, October has been strong for Bitcoin, and that is why it has earned the nickname October. In fact, Bitcoin has risen in 9 of the past 10 Octobers. While some experts caution that seasonality is not a guarantee, it can influence the investor behavior, creating a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. In short, Bitcoin is drawing attention not just for its gains, but also for the role that it plays as a hedge against uncertainty, quite similar to gold. But whether this rally will continue remains to be seen. For now, investors are keeping a close eye on the digital currency, as the US faces political and economic uncertainty as well. Japan may soon face a beer shortage, and not just any beer, but one of its most iconic ones. A ransomware cyber attack has hit the Asahi Group, the country's largest brewery. It has forced the company to shut down operations at most of its 30 domestic factories. These including the ones that produce its best-selling Asahi Super Dry. In fact, it is now reportedly just days away from running out of its popular beer. The cyber attack was first reported earlier this week and has crippled the company's ordering and delivery systems. While the actual beer production equipment was not damaged, shipments have been halted and production without the same cannot continue without logistics. The incident has raised alarm with the Japanese government, realizing the need to enhance the country's cyber response capabilities.
We are currently investigating the details of the cyber attack and the extent of damage. We are working with the relevant ministries and agencies to gather information for a swift and accurate assessment of the situation, including its impact. Given the progress of digital transformation across society, enhancing Japan's cyber response capabilities is an urgent priority.
The impact is being felt across Japan. Convenience stores, supermarkets, pubs bracing for empty shelves. Japan's beloved izakayas, where Asahi Super Dry is a staple, are now looking for alternatives as well to serve their loyal patrons.
I think I'd feel a bit upset if supply runs out tea, even if there are other options. Asahi Super Dry, especially during the summer, is something all Japanese people go for. So if the choices become limited, I'd feel a bit sad and unhappy.
It's a bit of a problem. We specialize in grilled skewered chicken and it pairs really well with Asahi Super Dry. A lot of customers say that, so I'm a little worried.
And the timing could not be worse. This comes as Asahi had planned to release 12 new products this month, including soft drinks and snacks. And those launches have now been postponed indefinitely. According to reports, the ransomware attack disabled internal communications, customer service desks, even email systems. It has forced the staff to revert to manual order taking over phone calls. However, the authorities have confirmed that no customer data was compromised and the company's international operations remain unaffected. But this breach is raising serious concern about cybersecurity vulnerabilities in critical manufacturing and supply chains. Asahi's disruption is a clear example of how a single system outage can have ripple effect across an entire industry. And for now, Japan is waiting not just for a beer, but for answers as well. In India, the Central Drug Standard Control Organization has approved Ozempic for patients suffering from type 2 diabetes. Ozempic is intended for individuals with type 2 diabetes and will be available only with a doctor's prescription. The Indian drug regulator, CDSCO, has approved it for the Indian market. Semaglutide is basically an injection for treating type 2 diabetes. Demand for weight loss drugs and for diabetes-related medicines in India has shot up. In fact, India is regarded as the world's diabetes capital, and the demand for the drugs has shot up. According to Lancet, globally, diabetes has been on the rise. The number of adults with diabetes was about 4 times higher in 2014 than in 1980, making diabetes one of the world's most important public health challenges. India, according to it, contributes to much of the worldwide diabetes burden. And according to Lancet, approximately 1 of every 7 adults with diabetes globally lives in India. And that diabetes prevalence varies substantially across Indian states, many of which have a total number of adults with diabetes that is comparable to other large countries. Diabetes occurs either when the pancreas does not produce enough insulin or when the body cannot effectively use the insulin that it produces. Insulin is a hormone that regulates the blood sugar. In fact, raised blood sugar is a common effect of uncontrolled diabetes and over time leads to serious damage to many of the body systems, especially the nerves and blood vessels. And if people are unaware of their diabetic status, it can lead to health complications if not detected and treated early. Adults with diabetes have a 2 to 3-fold increased risk of heart attacks and strokes. When we hear the word rogue, our minds often jump to secret agents or dangerous operatives. But what if we told you there is a rogue out there, not on Earth, but in deep space? Astronomers have discovered a rogue planet and it's growing at an astonishing rate. This newly observed world is about 620 light years away. It's not orbiting any star. This rare and mysterious class of planet free floats through space instead. And here's the astonishing bit. This planet is gaining mass at the fastest rate ever recorded. It is growing about 6 billion tons per second. The discovery was made using a very large telescope in Chile, along with data from the James Webb Space Telescope. What researchers saw was a sudden burst of activity. The planet began pulling in material from a surrounding disk of gas and dust. This phenomenon is not just fast, it's also violent. The incoming matter creates a hotspot on the surface of the planet. It can be seen through the telescope, and in just a few months, the rate of growth increased by 8-fold. What's especially intriguing here is that magnetic forces seem to be behind this sudden growth, and such forces are usually seen in stars, not planets. The planet is already up to 10 times more massive than Jupiter, which is the biggest planet in our solar system. Researchers even detected water vapor in the surrounding disk of the planet with changing chemistry as it grows. And more answers may come when the extremely large telescope, which is currently under construction, will begin scanning the skies in 2028. Until then, this planet remains a remarkable reminder that the universe is still full of surprises. Middle age does not have the best reputation, does it? Your knees start making things difficult. Your waistband feels a little tighter, and you might find yourself forgetting why you walked into a room. Work does not always offer the excitement or momentum that it once did. A recent study saying that despite the aches and chaos, middle age is when your mind might actually be at its best. Researchers introduced something called the Cognitive Personality Functioning Index. Think of it as a kind of mind performance scorecard. It tracks how different mental abilities and personality traits develop over a lifetime. And what they found is fascinating, the findings showing that the human brain tends to reach its peak performance between 55 and 60. It turns out that not all types of intelligence behave the same way. Let's just break this down for you. Fluid intelligence helps us to solve new problems quickly, remember things on the spot, and switching between tasks. It usually peaks in 20s and then slowly fades. Crystallized intelligence, on the other hand, is built from one learning and experience. It keeps growing for years. So by late 50s, what might not think as fast, but may likely make smarter and wiser decisions. And it's not just about intelligence. Personality plays a big role as well. Traits like emotional stability tend to get stronger with age. Other traits like moral reasoning and decision-making also improve. And when it comes to managing money, financial literacy peaks in the late 60s. Of course, all is not uphill, as some abilities do decline. Cognitive flexibility, like switching between tasks or ideas, can slow down. Cognitive empathy or reading other people's thoughts and feelings tends to fade a bit. When researchers added everything up, the result was clear. The strengths gained in middle age more than make up for what is actually lost. Some of history's greatest achievements came during people's 50s. Charles Darwin published On the Origin of Species at 50, forever changing how we understand life. Also, legendary masterpiece, Ninth Symphony. Abraham Lincoln became the 16th President of the United States during one of its most turbulent times. Meanwhile, Morgan Freeman did not land his first major movie role until he was 52. Philosophers like Hannah Arendt made groundbreaking contributions well into their 50s. Middle age is not a downward slide, it might just be the high point of your journey. So maybe it's time to rethink how we view middle age. That's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks for watching.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
This week on the West Asia Post. Israel is on alert against Iran, preparing for strikes that could ignite another regional war. Yemen's Houthis intensified their assaults, hit a Dutch ship in the Gulf of Aden and warn US oil majors of more strikes. Iraq's children are forced to abandon classrooms as poverty and the aftermath of war push little ones into hard labor.
Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radi Francis, only on WION. World is one.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.